Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
The importance and need for real-time disaster information cannot be overstated, especially in today's world where natural and human-made disasters are becoming more frequent and unpredictable. We have with us a team of SIH winners that has come up with a remarkable solution in this area. So let's meet them without any further delay. So guys, welcome to the studio. Good to have you here.
It's good to be here, sir. This is Team Matrix Infinity. This is Vishal Krishna. I'm Vishalis. This is Umesh. And then on the other side, our teammates introduce themselves.
Actually, thank you for having us. I am Deepika.
And I am Sagitya Games.
It's very heartening to welcome you here. So before we begin the proceedings, before we start this conversation, let us understand the problem and the intensity of the problem that you dealt with.
Okay, so the main problem that we faced was actually, as you know, during disasters, there's a very, very huge information gap. So what happens is people who are stuck in the disaster won't be able to communicate with anybody, any kind of rescue forces or the government outside. So that communication gap is what we wanted to address. And at the same time, when we're doing this, we'll be able to help not just the people, but also we'll be able to help the rescue agencies, NDRF, to make sure that they'll be able to save more lives and make the operation more efficient. So that's the thing we identified, and that's what we wanted to work on.
Okay, so when you were given this problem statement, or when you rather picked up this problem statement, what exact task was assigned to you? What exactly were you supposed to do?
So the exact thing that we had to do was to make sure that during a disaster, any kind of information that's floating around the internet, we'll have to make sure that we validate that information and give it to the exact right person. So that that right person, it could be NDRF, it could be the higher ups in the disaster management force, we'll have to collect all of the information floating around pertaining to that particular disaster and make sure that it reaches the right person, so they'll be able to take appropriate action faster.
I think it will be better to understand the solution that you come up with. So can you take us through the solution that you created for this particular problem?
So the solution is basically a kind of a information gathering system. So what it does, it basically browses the internet, it goes through Google. As we all know, there are a lot of very reputable sites, NDTV, Economic Times, etc. Then there is business. There are multiple news sites, there are multiple actual official government websites. So and then there's also social media, obviously. So from all of these sources, what we're able to do is we'll collect data pertaining to that particular disaster. So let's take, for example, the Wayanad landslide, which a lot of people are familiar with. So what happens is, as soon as that landslide or any kind of disaster begins, information about the disaster starts spreading everywhere. So what we'll do is we'll collect all of that information. We'll make sure that we categorize it based on what kind of disaster it is, where the disaster is exactly happening, and then how severe the disaster is. And then after all of this processing and classification, we'll give that information to the higher ups in NDRF to make sure that they'll be able to easily coordinate rescue teams. That's the major part. But apart from that, we're also providing them with a lot of things like automatic report generation, a lot of automation and AI features basically. So also, it's not just about giving the information. So when they're trying to act on the information, they need a lot of logistic support. Like for example, they need to deploy forces, they need to collect resources from shelters, they need to basically donate, all the kind of donations and stuff will come in. So at that time, there is a lot of logistics involved. So what we're doing is we're doing a kind of an automatic logistic support. So we'll tell them, for example, from point A to point B, some kind of a resource is needed. So we'll make sure that we'll give them the optimal route, the fastest method to reach from point A to point B, so that they'll be able to efficiently complete that operation.
Okay, to begin with, there is a question that pops up in my head. I believe you will be scraping the information from the web. So when you collect information from the web, there can be certain areas, certain sites, or certain you can say avenues or platforms where the information might not be correct. So is there a way to fact check also before you scrape it, assemble it, and forward that to the relevant person? Is that also a part of your work?
So like you said, yeah, the information is going to be everywhere, but sometimes the information might even be false. So what we are trying to do is we have a lot of verification checks and stuff involved. So if that information is really true, if the information is really valid, then there will be multiple different sightings of the information. And obviously, like I said before, we're also looking into official government websites. So there is actually an application called Windy, which NDRF uses regularly. There is an application called sisno.government.in. So we go through all of these kind of reputable sources and then cross-check them with other sources like prominent news channels and stuff. And then finally we'll get the perfect correct information.
So all this is happening through a manual mode, or some kind of AI integration is there to go through all these things.
We do all of the work and then we'll set it up so that everything is going to happen automatically later on.
Okay, so then you talked about a lot of AI integration and other elements here. So now can we kind of get a whole idea, or you can explain it to us what all is there and how does it work?
So like the first step I said there's a server, there will basically be a kind of server running. What it will do is it will go through every single of these reputable sites that we have mentioned and it will collect all of the information. It will then pass it on to our AI model. So what our AI model will do is, for example, let's take that AI model gets an information. There will be a news title saying that in this particular date, in this particular time, there is a landslide that has happened in Wayanad. So what happens is our AI model, what it does is it will take all of that relevant information, the news, the date, the place, the location, and then like let's say it's a landslide, right? So then we'll go into a landslide related government website and we'll see how severe this kind of a landslide is, and then we'll give the severity. So all of this happens in the background, and then this final information saying that this location, this date, this time, this disaster and this severity has happened. So this will be passed on to the officials.
Okay, so this is till the information part, and you said thereafter, after the information part is done, thereafter also there are so many other features which enable the user or the beneficiary to do a lot of other stuff. Like you said in terms of logistics and transportation, or in terms of ease of reaching a particular point and things like that. So how do all those things work?
So let's take for example, there is a huge affected area in the Wayanad district, but then there will be a lot of people who are outside the district who want to help them in need. So what happens is we have set up kind of a donation system where people like you and me will be able to donate for the relief cost. We'll be able to donate them. So what happens is there is a kind of a supply chain involved here. So the donation is going to come in, and then this donation should be stored in a particular shelter, right? So then from that particular stored shelter, it needs to go to that affected area. So for this supply chain, now we know the 3 points. We know that there is a point A, someone is trying to donate. It goes to point B, that's the storage, and then it goes to point C, that is the affected area. So when we know the location and we know exactly what kind of things we are transporting, we'll be easily able to map out we'll get the coordinates, we'll see how long it takes, and then we'll finally give an optimized route. That if you follow this route and this time, you will be able to reach this area and donate, or you will be able to give the affected people the things that they need.
So from my angle, the user angle or the recipient angle, how does it work? Supposing I'm the official who wants to have access to all this information and features.
So actually there are two kinds of people who will be able to use this platform. As you said, this is a platform. You can think of it like a website. So there are two different people using this. On one side, we have civilians like you and me who know about this kind of disaster happening, and there'll easily be a donate option in our website. It will say that this is what is happening. It will be completely transparent. So it will tell that this is what is exactly happening in so and so place. Are you willing to donate for this? And then once people like us donate, and then we go to the second person, the rescue agencies, the NDRF. They'll have a separate website showing them that these are all the inventory that we have right now. These are all the incoming donations that we're getting, and this is all of the affected areas, and this is all the teams that we're able to deploy. It will show them everything. And then what happens is they'll easily be able to automatically, with the click of a button, they'll be automatically able to get the route. So that if we deploy this kind of a vehicle here, we'll be able to easily get the supply from this location to this location. So everything will be detailedly showed in that interface.
Okay, so what is this interface? Is it a website? Is it a platform? Is it an app? And how do I access it?
Okay, so when it comes to that, actually what happens is, since this is a web application, we'll have to host it in a particular area. So there is a subscription model. So what happens is we're doing something called periodic hosting. So what happens is basically we'll only be able to set up this application. We'll only set up this application when there is a disaster involved. Other than the disaster time, there won't be any kind of setup involved. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to minimize the cost as much as possible so as to reduce the burden on people as well as the government. So we'll host this, we'll set this up immediately only when there's a disaster. In other times, it will basically be inactive. So since we're hosting this, there will be a subscription cost that will have to be borne by the government or by NDRF. So that will be the basic business model.
While you were developing this, while you were working on it, so what all research did go into this, or was it based on experiences, or like what all did went into creation of this?
Okay, so when it comes to research, there's actually a lot of things involved here. So from the entire idea started because we actually got stuck in some place like this. So the actual story is we actually attended the previous Smart India Hackathon 2023, and what happened is we were completely stuck in a flood. So we had to do our project, but we got completely stuck in a flood. We weren't able to do anything. So that's where this idea actually started, and then we started researching about what are all the different kinds of helping thing available. We actually figured out that in Mexico, there was actually an initiative to do something like this. So what they did in people in Mexico, there's a team involved. They basically set up a lot of communication modes. So they'll be able to take some kind of real-time data through physical communication modes. So what we thought was, why do something physical when there's a lot of data actually floating around in the internet? So then we switched from physical all the way to digital. So that's how this entire process and the idea and the research started.
Okay, so what all has gone into it in terms of creating the software, in terms of putting the research in, like which partner of yours team did what?
Yes, sir, I will explain that. So, the journey of doing this project started from the internal round of Smart India Hackathon. So, the internal round was held in our college. In every colleges it was held, and in our college we did the internal round. So, first, how we developed the solution is as Vishal said. In Mexico, there were many nodes set up, and from these nodes can form a mesh network, and the information from one node can jump and pass to another node, and it can finally reach the rescue agencies. So the basic idea what we formed was as the title suggests, real-time disaster information aggregation. So what we thought was we wanted to get information from crowdsourced data. So we implemented this Mexico part that he said. That is, we made a hardware which has a LoRa module, which is long range. So what this does is we'll be giving this hardware to many civilians, and we had a plan of installing this in government institutions. So what we'll be doing is a message will be sent from one place, like a person needs milk here, but he is unable to communicate it to another rescue agencies. So what this device will do is the message from one hardware device jumps from one device to another device, and this total network is formed in an offline way. So even when there is no traditional communication and everything is gone down, our mesh network can make the communication come alive, and this message from one node gets passed on and it reaches the rescue agencies. So our main product that we did during the internal round of Smart India Hackathon was this hardware, which enables communication even when there is offline, and it gathers crowdsourced data. And we also followed the problem statement of gathering the online data from social media, news, and other sources, open sources like satellites. This satellite data we extracted from reputed websites of NDRF and NDMA. So basically what we did was offline and online solution we did in the internal room. But went to the first mentoring session of grand finale, the mentor said that they did not need the hardware crowdsourced data solution for now, because they already had implemented a solution similar to this, and they did not need the hardware part, which we thought was our novelty. And we all lost hopes that time, because our main novelty was not needed by the judge. So we were very spontaneous, and we came up with a better solution of implementing a full real-time dashboard for NDRF, and giving them every information that they need in a single page dashboard. So they needed only the online solution that we did, that is collecting data from social media, news channels, and satellite data. So we also had visited the battalion of NDRF in Arakonam. So what they had was, there was 4 TVs showing different 4 news channels, and one person had to sit and watch all these 4 news channels, and it was very hectic process for the person. We had to make a easier solution for them to watch all and monitor all this disaster that is happening around India. So what we did was we collected every data from online sources, live news sources, and also from satellite sources, and we displayed them in a single dashboard. So this was our solution that we provided.
Okay, so something very interesting came up during the conversation of which you were having about the solution. You worked on something very tangible in the internal round, which somehow you thought will help you immensely in the final rounds of SIH, but it could not happen because they didn't want that. They wanted something entirely different. So, I mean, here I would like to understand what all happened during those rounds wherein you were actually participating in the finale, and you had to make choices or you had to make amendments to whatever you were doing. So did that happen a lot? Like what all feedbacks were there from the mentors or the judges which you had to incorporate and change the track during the course of hackathon?
Yes, sir. So why I brought this thing up is we have two IoT specialists in our team. That is Sarvesh and another guy, Surya. He is not able to join today. So during the internal round, we did this hardware part. They mostly contributed to the hardware side, and I did the software part, and Vishal and Sagityan did the ML machine learning part. I and Deepika worked on the software part. So this was to answer your previous question, that is who contributed to which part of the project. And next, answering to this question. So when we were posed with the problem that the judge did not want our hardware solution, which we thought our novelty was, we were first, we lost all our hopes, and we were like, we were out any ideas that time. So we had our mentor in our team, that is Dr. Rakesh Kumar. He was our mentor. So he told us to implement a NDRF oriented solution and to make a very good looking UI and very good looking usable UI and software for the NDRF, and to display everything in a single page dashboard. That is the NDRF. There was a person seeing 4 screens of a television and watching everything. So we had to make it easier, and our solution is like the person doesn't even have to scroll our website. Everything is displayed instantly. Even if there is a immediate disaster, alert pops up in the app with a beep sound saying disaster has occurred here. So our planning went in this way to make the solution oriented to NDRF.
Okay, so now let's talk about the future. So what do you think, is this project of yours future ready? Is it implementable, and can it be used practically on ground, or do you think some more tweaks are required, some more R&D is required in this?
So when it comes to the future, now since we have focused more on the digital part, we'll actually need to work on improving the efficiency. That's the first thing. We'll have to work on improving the intake of the data that we get. So all of that intake data, we'll have to make sure that we process it efficiently. So there's a lot of like server requirements, and that is a different kind of a thing that we need in the future. Apart from that, we'll also need help in making sure that we spread awareness about such a system existing. So that is another kind of help we'll be needing in the future. So that's mostly the majority of what the future for this project holds.
Okay, so what is your estimate? Will you be able to crack all this in the coming few, say, months or maybe a year or so?
Yes, sir. Actually, we're working with a team of 6 people right now, along with a mentor. We'll be able to make sure that we complete this in a few months.
So guys, thank you so much for joining us today, and we are really proud that young innovators like you are working on such themes in such areas and trying to help the society. So congratulations first of all for winning the hackathon, and then congratulations on the project that you have created, and we wish you all the best for the future, and we wish that this project of yours sees light of the day and we are all able to take help from this immensely in the coming days. Thank you so much for joining today.
Thank you so much for having us, sir. It's been a great pleasure working with Smart India Hackathon.
Thank you. This team of young innovators has worked on innovations in real-time disaster information that can play a huge role in making responses faster, smarter, and more accurate. It can be a great help in dealing with all the aspects of emergencies, especially preparedness, response, and recovery to lessen the impact of disasters.